Hi, I'm Emily Reilly, and this is Santa Cruz Reads Edgar Allan Poe. This October will mark the first Santa Cruz Reads project. Sponsored by a grant from the NEA, this event will celebrate the literary contributions of Edgar Allan Poe through a wide range of events, including poetry readings, discussion groups, magic shows, cemetery tours, writing contests, and more. In the next few minutes, we will meet some of the people organizing, performing, and appearing at events, and give you a preview of all Santa Cruz Reads has in store. Our first guest is Janice O'Driscoll, Manager of Programs and Partnerships, Santa Cruz Public Libraries. Janice has a master's degree in library science and another in American and British literature. She joined the Santa Cruz Public Library in 1985 and is now at the center of Santa Cruz Reads. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you.
You are at the center of this.
I am, and I'm enjoying it. It's wonderful.
And now this is the first one. The first one for Santa Cruz.
This is the very first one for Santa Cruz. We being the Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries, and I wrote a grant in February to the National Endowment for the Arts, hoping to be funded for a big read, to read Edgar Allan Poe. But there's a lot of libraries in the country, and we weren't really sure we would have a chance. But we were one of 76 libraries to be funded.
No kidding.
Yeah, we were really excited.
That's
and this is
impressive.
The first one.
That's really impressive. 76.
Yeah.
So what exactly is a community read?
A community read is an opportunity for the community to read either a particular title or an author and discuss it and explore that author, explore the writing in a lot of different ways. And we took that really to heart here in Santa Cruz.
Not a surprise. So it's not something that's happening in isolation where people just read the book and...
No, not at all. We have lots of activities planned. We're working with the city schools, which is very exciting. So we have middle schoolers, high schoolers, as well as adults reading Poe, participating in a writing contest. And we have several community events, and we've got lots of partners to help us with that. We're going to do events at the Museum of Art and History, the Museum of Natural Science. We're going to do things at the Seymour Center, Loudon Nelson, and of course the library branches.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm just so curious now, because you're talking about events at different places, and they're not just going to be like, read the book and then come and
discuss it.
No.
Each one of the discussion groups has its own topic, some aspect of Poe, whether the way he used sound or a theme he might have used. But it's more than just discussion topics. We're going to have a blood drive at the Live Oak Branch Library.
That's great. That's perfect.
We're going
close to Halloween, maybe? Is it going to be yeah. I love it.
And we're also going to have magic shows, because a lot of what Poe did was build on magic and build on the way he could persuade someone to feel a certain way or think they remember something in a certain way, and it's perfect for magic. We're also, as I said, the writing contest, there's going to be opportunities for that. We're going to have a Raven art show that's based in the Boulder Creek Branch Library.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So there'll be things to visit there. And we're going to learn about birds. We're going to learn about crows and ravens, and we're going to learn how to tell the difference between a crow and a raven, and, which is really interesting to me, we're going to find out how come there's so many more crows in Santa Cruz now than there used to be.
Oh, I can't wait to find that out. When I moved here, there weren't nearly as many as there are now.
Yeah. Same
now
here.
They're even on the beach.
Yes. Well, we have someone who's going to tell us why.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
And I don't know the answer, so I can't
That's
tell you.
Great. That's great. So how can the public participate?
Well, We have a wonderful website, and it's www.santacruzreads.org.
Okay.
And that lists all of the events that we're having and where they are and when. You can, if you come to the launch on Saturday, October 1st at Loudon Nelson at 1:30, you can pick up an entry form for the writing contest. You can see which films we're going to show at which branches, and you can hear about all these wonderful opportunities.
That's perfect. Oh, I'm so going to be there. This is really great.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. It's really, really wonderful. Thank you so much, Janice.
Thank you.
For more about the events, go to the Santa Cruz Reads website, santacruzreads.org. Our next guest is the novelist Laurie R. King. Her novels range from police procedurals to a historical series about Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes. Her books have won the Edgar, Creasy, Wolf, Lambda, and McCavity Awards, and appear regularly and currently on the New York Times bestseller list. Laurie, welcome.
Thank you.
Currently, how cool is that? That must be really quite an accomplishment. Congratulations.
It makes everyone very happy, yes.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Does it, you too? Does it?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
It means people love me, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
With $25 a time.
We'll take it, right? Oh, that's great. Since Santa Cruz Reads is about Edgar Allan Poe and you won the Edgar, do you see a connection between your work and Poe? Has his work influenced you in any way?
Well, it is actually fascinating as a writer to go back and look at the Poe stories, because there are so many ideas and forms and things that are almost cliches now, that you read his stories and think, that's where it started. I mean, it's like all the phrases that come out of Shakespeare, and you read Shakespeare and think, the man could only write in cliches. He invented them.
Right.
And the same with Poe.
Yeah, that's why they're cliches, because they're true.
Yeah, with Poe, I mean, whether you're talking about that macabre sense that you get in horror books, or strange ideas like an orangutan with a razor, or ciphers. I mean, all these things he manages to pack into his stories, and you think, I can write nothing original.
Yeah, there's nothing left. And so you don't purposely copy somebody, but yet you are influenced by them because they did it the first time and maybe better than anybody.
Right. Yes, if you look at such as Poe's Dupin stories, you have this all-knowing detective and this fellow who's writing down the notes, who isn't quite as bright, and that of course goes straight into the Conan Doyle material, and the Conan Doyle material comes straight into people like me.
Right.
So, you know, it's a fascinating thing to look at your forefather.
So it's not just this way of explaining to the reader what some of the details are that you need to explain.
That too. The ways of presenting material in narrative or in seeing things. Certainly Poe uses a different kind of language from what we would now. Poe's stories read very well. They really need to be read aloud, whereas a lot of our stories are much too quick for that. They're meant for people who are reading with their eyes.
Is there any particular one of Poe's books that you would recommend to someone who's going to participate in this? Is there one that, like, if you've never read Poe, read this one first?
Oh, where to start?
Yeah.
Where to start?
Yeah.
I suppose Murder in the Rue Morgue. The Rue Morgue murders are just, they're at the base of what crime fiction is now. And, you know, and horror too. Do
you have any words of advice for us as we set out on our first annual one?
I think you've got a great beginning. I mean, these are such super. The artwork that was produced for this is really great.
It is cool.
I just love the idea of the community reading either a book or a group of books. I mean, the Poe stories are certainly give someone enough to talk about over a period of a month.
Yeah, it can last that long. Yeah. Laurie, thank you so much. This has been a real treat for me, a real pleasure.
Oh, thanks.
And I really appreciate it, and look forward to your next bestseller.
And enjoy your read.
Yes, thank you. You can see Laurie at the opening event of The Big Read on October 1st at the Loudon Nelson Center. Edgar Allan Poe is associated with birds, and John Moir is an award-winning environmental journalist who knows a lot about birds. Moir's dramatic nonfiction book, Return of the Condor, was a finalist for the William Saroyan International Writing Award, and his work has appeared in the New York Times, Smithsonian Magazine, the Washington Post, the Christian Science Monitor, and more. John, welcome.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
And for writing this book.
Oh, it was a delight to write.
And
very fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. So you've written, clearly you've written a lot about birds, not just condors, but a lot about birds.
A lot about birds, different types of birds, mostly condors, though. I've written a lot about condors. I just had an article in the New York Times recently about a new development with the condor program, yes.
So why do you think that Poe used birds the way he did in his books?
Poe used birds very effectively as symbols of this rather macabre type of atmosphere that infuses much of his writing. And in particular, he liked to use vultures and ravens. So for example, we don't get far into The Telltale Heart before he's mentioning the vulture eye. He uses this as a symbol for the narrator of that story, who is eventually going to murder the old man who has this vulture eye. So he uses the vulture as a symbol of something that's evil. He does it in other works as well. For example, there's a sonnet that he wrote about science. Same thing, he used the vulture as a symbol of science, and in a way that he was decrying the way science was viewing things like the arts and a romantic view of nature. So the vulture has been used quite a lot in his work. And well, go ahead.
No. I'm just, it's fascinating. I mean, when I think about Poe, I think about the raven immediately, think about a vulture. Even in the poster, of course, has the raven on it.
Yeah, well, and the raven is, of course, arguably his most famous poem. Certainly it's the poem that got him going and got him broad recognition. Although aspiring poets might note that he hardly made any money off of that thing. But again, he uses the raven as a symbol of almost a demon in that poem.
Yeah. And words as that we still remember. I mean, when someone says the word raven,
or nevermore,
exactly. You think of that poem.
Yeah, you do.
That's how strong and dramatic it was.
So when you read Poe, you're left with this linkage between his writing and the birds. And what I want to do with The Big Read is to put a little more nuance into this story, or the way that he's portrayed these birds, because they're very interesting birds, and there's more to them. I mean, yes, they do eat dead things, that's their job.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, condors, for example, the type of vulture that I've written a lot about, they are highly intelligent. They're highly social. In fact, they're so intelligent and so social that a lot of scientists call them flying primates.
Now, how does the public participate in your part of the community read?
Well, I'll be at the kickoff event on October 1st at Loudon Nelson, and then I'll also be doing a evening talk at the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History, and I'll be there at 7:30. This is the museum that's down by the ocean with the cement whale.
Right. Yeah,
and it's also being co-sponsored by the Santa Cruz Bird Club. But anybody from the public is welcome to come. It's free, and I will be presenting a slideshow that has rare photographs from the Condor program. It will really take people deep inside condor country and the terrific effort that's been made to bring this bird back from the brink of extinction.
That's great. I can't wait. I'll be there. You can see John discuss big black birds on October 27th at the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History. Don Rothman taught writing at UCSC for 34 years and directed the Central California Writing Project for almost 3 decades. Since retiring in 2007, he's published several books of photographs and is the author of How to Teach Writing and Why. Don will be leading community discussions on the works of Poe. Hi, Don.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Retired? That didn't sound like someone who's retired.
That's my kind of retired.
Yeah, busier since you've retired, I think.
Busy, and I love it.
Oh, good, good. So you're inviting the public to a conversation on October 6th, I believe?
That's correct.
And at the library?
Yes.
And what's that going to be like?
Well, I hope that it'll help me understand Poe better than I do now, because I think one of the reasons for having a community read a book together or read an essay together or read an author's work together is so that we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
And I think also hold a mirror up to who we are. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is deepening my own appreciation for Poe. I hadn't paid that much attention to Poe until recently, when I got a copy of The Philosophy of Composition, this essay where he purports to describe how he wrote The Raven, the famous poem.
Really?
I was just amazed at what he had to say, and I immediately thought, hey, this could be a useful conversation for teachers to have.
Uh-huh. And so is that part of what you'll be discussing
Yes.
at the library? Do you think there'll be teachers there as
Well,
well
that's what
as
I
us
hope.
regular folk?
I hope. I would love it if educators or people who are thinking of being teachers or people who have an interest in their children's learning to write come. Because one of the things I think Poe gives us a chance to talk about is when we read a piece of writing like The Raven, or listen to it, that's so famous, it's canonical. And then we have an author who's written something about how he wrote it.
Yeah.
We have this great opportunity to look behind the text itself and exercise our imagination about how does creativity happen? Do we believe everything Poe has to say? Why does he focus on what he does focus on in this essay? And maybe of real interest to me, I'm kind of looking forward to this conversation. Most people will have read The Raven at some point in their life.
Right.
I hope people will read the essay, The Philosophy of Composition, which is easy to find. It's on the website for the library. It's easy to Google and find
good.
it.
That's great.
Before they come. And one of the things I'm interested in is for people who read The Raven when they were younger, what is it like to read it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is it like to read it in the presence of this relatively short essay where Poe is telling us something about how he wrote it?
That was going on in his mind.
How does that change how you read a poem?
You know, I probably haven't read The Raven in, I don't know, 50 years. So I'm going to read it again.
Good.
And I've never read the essay, so I'll read the essay before I come to the library.
Right.
I mean, because seeing that little thing that happens when a writer writes and the magic is created, and then, we read it and maybe we have this other idea that we thought was going on.
Sure.
And then, so do you think that essay is something that can help teachers and their students when they're teaching?
Well, I think it's terrific, actually, to prompt a conversation. And it seems to me that if we're going to improve education, we need better conversation. We need more imaginative, more open, more risky conversation. Poe is great for that.
Yeah.
Because Poe is a notorious liar. Therefore, you can't read this essay and just take it at face value.
Yeah.
Anyone who reads it is going to go, well, at some point, wait a minute. What's he doing here? Is this tongue-in-cheek?
Right, is he playing with
what's
me?
He playing? Oh, absolutely.
He knew I was going to read this. What was he thinking?
And that's healthy.
Yeah.
It's healthy because there are lots of occasions where you have to be skeptical about what an artist tells you.
Yeah.
The fact is we're curious about what artists have to say, whether they're writers or painters. We want to know what's the story.
Right.
But the story is often a story.
Right.
It's often fiction. It's often has nothing to do with what went on.
Yeah.
And Poe actually describes, this essay describes the composing of The Raven the way an engineer might, construct something.
Right.
Because he doesn't want to be mistaken for being a transcendentalist or a spiritualist. He doesn't want to get, he wants to make really clear, this isn't about inspiration. This is about hard work.
Yeah,
and
this
what's
is hard work and
so what's
mechanics.
wonderful, yes,
Yeah.
and it is. It's
Yeah.
a very mechanical kind of thing. On the other hand, it's fascinating because what he does say is interesting. It'll engage us.
Yeah.
Why I think it might be useful, though, for us as teachers and parents is that it may turn out that we could be asking children when they're first developing an attitude towards writing to also write about their own composing process. And I don't think we can do that if the adults don't know that composing process is like for them.
For them. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much,
Thanks.
Don.
Yeah.
Thanks. You can join Don for conversation on October 6th at the Central Library. And the essay he was talking to, if you want to read it before you go, is available on the website santacruzreads.org. Brent Gifford was born into life as a shaman in the woods of Maine and started his shamanic training at the age of 6. At 11 years old, he lost his sight, but not his vision, and started learning and performing magic tricks as part of an art therapy program in the basement of the local library. He performed stage hypnotism at the age of 16 and went on to be a certified clinical hypnotherapist. A resident of Santa Cruz for the last 9 years, he has been performing for the library system's summer reading program and special events like this one, the Big Read. Welcome, the Great Blindini. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Emily.
To talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is such an exciting event that's happening all October. I can't wait. Every person I talk to, I just want to, I want it to start. I want it to start now. So you're a magician.
Yes, that too.
As a magician, that too, yes. As a magician, what's the appeal of Edgar Allan Poe to you?
I actually grew up listening or reading Poe. I could see till I was 11, and in my family, we read all the time. And I grew up in a place where we would read stories out loud to other people, and family groups would get together at someone's house and have a fire and read stories. And Poe was a very popular choice because the stories are best, those stories, Poe especially, is best experienced rather than just listened to. And that's kind of what I'm going to do.
Read in your head, only in your head.
Right, yeah. Most magic tricks happen in the head of the participant or the seer, the audience. And it's the same with reading Poe. You can have 10 people sitting there reading a book, the same story, and they'll all have a different experience, but they'll all have an experience.
Right.
And it'll happen. And magic tricks are sort of based on that same premise. Is I can have 100 people watching something I do, and they will all take away something magical, but it'll be a different experience.
It'll be different for each one of us. Because, So you're going to be doing things like that at these events?
I am.
And you're going to be at the kickoff, I know that.
I'm going to be at the kickoff on the 1st. With a really great looking lineup, it looks to me. I mean, I'm a big Laurie King fan, so I've read everything she's ever written, listened to everything she's ever written. And I'm going to be at Abbott Square on the following Saturday, 4 to 5, and I'm going to be doing physical, interactive stuff with whoever shows up. If we have 12, great. If we have 200, great. We're going to do dowsing. We're going to do what's called idiomotor response to lines of Poe's writing. So we're going to have somebody read some of it and see how you physically feel in your body, and then we're going to do demonstrations, and we're going to go on a treasure hunt and using Poe's directions from a story called The Gold Bug.
How fun!
I'm really looking forward to it. I was really psyched when I got. Yeah.
Too.
Well, yeah. And the following week I'm going to be in Felton at the community center at 10:30 in the morning on the 15th, and we're at the community center because the library is not accessible to people with disabilities.
Oh, that's too bad.
And it's and Felton is my personal favorite library. It's like the little library from home in Maine.
Now I hate to interrupt you, but we only have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
And I want you to show me a trick that somehow
how it relates
to Poe.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick that involves 6 different items.
Okay.
I guess I got to feel them to tell what they are. Stone or heart or whatever, coin, key, knife, lighter, and this is called a rattleback, and it's another trick that only works a certain way, and we'll do that when you see me live.
Okay.
And I'd like to have you out there, someone in that amorphous blackness, the people watching, pick an object in your mind. Don't say anything out loud. And Emily, I'd like to have you choose a number between 1 and 6, please.
4.
4. F-O-U-R. You picked the knife.
I did.
And oddly enough, my prediction, the one thing left in the bag, is the knife.
Okay. So how did you do that?
Very well, thank you for asking.
Very well. Okay.
And this is what the big show is going to be about. This is interactive. I'm going to explain.
You're going to explain that. So when people come to the big show, which we know they now will, they're going to find out. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. The Great Blindini, I really appreciate seeing you and meeting you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Look for the Great Blindini at the Santa Cruz Reads Kickoff, October 1st at the Loudon Nelson Center. Well, you've met some of the people and things that will be featured all month at Santa Cruz Reads. And we welcome you to join in the celebration of Poe, October 1st to November 3rd here in Santa Cruz County. I'm not going to miss it. After what I've learned today about what's going on, I'm jumping in with both feet, and I hope you will too. I'm Emily Reilly. Thanks for joining us.